Hi, Don.
I have with you today Lisa Petrielli, Vice President of Global Sales at Iron Mountain. Prior to that, she was at Oracle and AT&T. So a lot of information that she has to give us has been from senior roles. She's been in the technology side for a number of years. Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you, Don.
Let's start off by saying, is there anything universal that you look for when you're hiring, whether no matter the role or the level of the position that you're hiring for?
I look at the person, their
Mhm.
personality, their energy, their attitude, things that are just core to who the individual is. You can't really fake it. It's who the person is, and there's a certain fit that we're looking for, and even from a culture, from a customer perspective, like from a company perspective, but also from a one-on-one perspective, is there a fit? Is that energy and connection made? So I would say that from a personality perspective, I'm looking for individuals that have that energy that we're trying to create in terms of what we're working on. And I think that's unique regardless of what role you're working on.
Right. And because you have a very robust experience in sales, what would you say to hiring people in the sales? What are you looking for there
Well,
specifically?
obviously there's the standard sales, tactics that we look for. We look for people who have had prior performance roles with results. We're looking for someone who's chosen sales as their career. It's
Mhm.
not a part-time job; it's a career, and
Right.
I want people who've dedicated themselves to the practice of selling. It's becoming more and more complicated. And lately, what we've been looking for is the ability to have conversational discussions with customers in a way that uncovers pain points, that they're able to build rapport early on to
Right.
create that level of trust with customers so that they open up and can uncover, really what the customer is trying to do, because this is a changing economy we're in, especially in technology. And we don't really have a good handle on what's going to happen in the next 10 years. I think the products 10 years from now are going to be very different than they are today. And
Right.
being able to co-create solutions with customers is going to be really important for a really high performing sales
Mhm.
individual. And so that's a skill that we've been looking for. And you can sort of feel that out during the interview process. But when we find the right individual, it's not always an easy thing to uncover. I feel like that's something that differentiates people today in the sales. For me, in sales, for technology sales, I think it's a unique skill that people should be thinking about.
Mhm. Is there anything anyone has ever done to sort of knock your socks off in an interview process?
Um, I can't think of a specific example, but there's a couple of things that stand out in terms of what I consider to be a good interview.
Mhm.
One is, usually we go in and we have a set of questions and we have a scorecard, and sometimes we'll have one or two people in the call. But when the person turns around the interview in a natural way because of their rapport into them asking questions and us having a conversation, it goes back to my earlier point that now they've created this environment where you're having a conversation. And
Mhm.
so we've had a couple of people do that I've been really impressed in. And the team, everybody who was in the meeting at the time was also impressed because all of a sudden it was a conversation and we could see how the person would fit in with the group. And the other example I would share is we've started doing panel interviews where we're asking the candidate to present a topic, any topic of their choice, to pseudo personas, and we give them only 10 minutes, and then we provide them with critique right on the spot, and we ask them to come back 10 minutes later and to present the exact same material to see if they change their approach. And
Okay.
it's been really interesting to see the differences between the candidates and how they adjust and who can take the feedback and who can't. And we've hired a few folks just because of the way they handled that. And we've been really impressed with how they've come in and they can pivot because change is going to continue to happen. And, you know, you just have to be dynamic right now in terms of being able to adjust based on feedback. And so that for us has been a really interesting process. And I think it's something we're going to continue to do.
It's so funny you talk about the panel interview. That strikes fear in the heart of so many people when I tell them that they have a panel interview as part. I said, but you're in sales. This should not phase you at all. So many people are afraid of that.
You know what? I'm so glad you mentioned that because, I mean, if you're in sales and you're afraid to present, like, should you really be in sales? I mean, this is why I mean, like, you're either a sales professional or you're not. And I don't think you can fake it. And I think it's important to be honest about what your capabilities are and what's going to make you successful. Because ultimately, you want to be successful regardless of what role you're in.
Right, exactly. What advice would you give, or what have you seen in terms of people wanting to negotiate? What do you see?
Varies. I mean, some people up front will say, this is what we need, what I need in order to come, and they have that conversation with our recruiter, and we can determine up front whether or not it's a fit, whether we have a role in that category.
Mm-hmm.
Others leave it a little later on after they've had a conversation and they understand what the company's all about. And both have their pros and cons.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on, how specific you are about the role that you want to take, if you know upfront the exact role you want and you know exactly how much it's going to take for you to move, it's probably best to put that out there. But if you're flexible and you're willing to consider alternatives, if you go in with a bit of an open mind, sometimes you might not get the job you're applying for, but you may have impressed the organization so much so that they might find you another job. And so, things have a way of working themselves out. And I think at the end of the day, you need to determine what you're worth and what you're looking for, and then stay true to that, and the right things will happen, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Any advice for either a candidate or a hiring manager that you want to share?
The advice I would share if you're a hiring manager is, if you find the right person, act quickly.
Oh, yes.
I think that is
Yes.
really important, especially in this day and age. We don't want to prolong it and go through multiple processes. Try to act very quickly. We don't want to have more than 2 or 3 meetings. I think you can tell normally within the first meeting whether someone's a fit. So I would act quickly if you're a hiring manager. If you're a candidate, I would just make sure that you're prepared. You know the organization that you're applying for. You do your research. I'm always impressed with people that have researched all of us, or they know a little bit about the company, they've done their due diligence, because especially in sales, what it tells me is that they don't go to meetings unprepared. And being prepared and doing your research is so critical to your success. So it's very telling in terms of the preparation that somebody does. So I would, those would be my 2.
And thank you for saying that. I tell candidates all the time, it's the #1 pet peeve of hiring managers, candidates that arrive unprepared. So thank you for saying that.
Yeah, I think it's very true.
Thank you so much, Lisa, for your nuggets of information, and have a great weekend. And thanks so much for sharing your wisdom with us.
Thank you, Dawn. Appreciate it.
All right.